our big conversation begins right now on the state of education funding and payment of school fees via e-citizen. Keep your conversation going on the same. The SMS line is 21144 and GBS TV Africa on all our social media handles. David Karani is here with me. He is a member of Elimu Bora Working Group. Good evening, Mr. Karani, and thank you for joining the broadcast.
Good evening.
And also joining us virtually is Benjamin Gulu. He is the Chief Manager, Sunrise Virtual School. Good evening, Mr. Benjamin, and welcome to the broadcast.
Good evening, Beatrice.
Thank you very much for joining the broadcast. And maybe to start with you, Mr. Benjamin Gulu, we just recently celebrated the International Day of Education. And you have seen since 2003, education has been declared both the primary and secondary free in this country. And now, assessing the situation, is education free and accessible for all so far?
Thank you so much, Beatrice, for this question. I'll say the free basic education is not really absolutely free. We've been progressively, as a country, been working towards that, but I would say it's not absolutely free.
Thank you so much. And now to you, Mr. Karani, we just celebrated the International Day of Education on the 24th of January. Now looking at what is stipulated in the Constitution in Article 43, Chapter 1, it talks about free education for both the primary and secondary school. Looking at the situation right now, are we looking at free education, free and accessible education for all?
The Constitution talks about free basic education, compulsory education. So far, we've not been able to achieve this as a country. We're still having conversations about school fees payment. We should be having a conversation on how to fund education for every child in this country, or every learner in this country. Vis-a-vis the conversation that we're having about school fees. So the funding has not, we've not gotten there yet. It's something that we really ought to actually work hard towards that, where we can be able to offer quality, basic, free basic education. When we talk about basic, we talk about primary and secondary level, so that every child in this country can be able to enjoy uninterrupted schooling for those 12 years of their lives. So it's something we really need to work towards as a country. As civil society, we've always been calling out to government to actually put more investment into education, because we shouldn't be having a conversation where we're talking about learners being out of school. So far, we are seeing almost 130,000 learners who are not able to join secondary school, which is a very big number. This is because of the financial constraints, which is a very sad affair. We are seeing government speaking in gatherings, in Harambes, saying that all learners should go to school, but not issuing a circular towards that. So it's very important that when they talk about no learner should actually be at home, they should also issue a circular to go with that, so that all the school managers can be able to actually act on it. Because right now, what the Vice President was talking about, that any teacher who's going to send a child home is also going to be sacked. That is just something they talk about and they pack and go. But those parents are left now without any guidelines. It's important that we guide these parents to actually ensure that there is a way forward.
Is it the Vice President or the Prime Cabinet Secretary?
Actually, even Rigathi Gachagua yesterday was talking about any school manager who's going to be sending learners home is also going to be sacked, which is a very sad thing to actually talk about without issuing these parents with the proper guidelines. And I'm going to assure them, if today there is proper guidelines on how they're going to issue this and actually issue a circular, civil society, we are going to ensure that every parent who has a needy child will get that circular on time, so that we can take those learners to school to ensure that they get this constitutional right.
And back to you, Mr. Benjamin, you did say that it is not all students who are able to access, and education is not free from where you sit. And what is ailing the funding in the country? Do we need more allocation? And not forgetting that this year we had a 27.4% of the planned expenditure allocated to education. That is 628 billion. So what is needed? Is it the funds, or how and when they are distributed that is the problem?
Okay, thank you so much, Beatrice. I agree with the Wanakarani a lot on what he said about the issue of funding. The reason why this concessional item is not fully actualized, that is free and compulsory basic education, I would say is mainly because of funding. Looking at it, even from the recommendation by the Presidential Working Party recently, they recommended the capitation to be increased and to be reviewed every 3 years. Now, looking at it from that perspective, you can see that the problem is funding. The problem is funding. The government policies are there, but the funding is hardly enough it's not actually proportionate to the number of learners who need to access this basic education, that's primary and secondary. So I would say yes, the problem is funding, and we know that as a government, there's always a complaint of resources. The resources are not enough. Look at the current cost of living, the skyrocketing prices of basic commodities, and also the issues of corruption. A lot of money not going to the intended use in education circles. Even the capitation itself, we've had issues of corruption touching on the capitation. So I think it all rotates around the issue of funding. And if this could be sorted out and we close all the loopholes where the money is being mismanaged or wasted, then somehow I feel we'll be moving towards achieving that 100% free and compulsory basic education. Back to you, Beatrice.
Thank you, Mr. Benjamin. Now back to you, Mr. Karani. Yesterday you held a press conference talking on the education funding, and you precisely addressed the issue of bursaries and talked about merging bursaries together and having a central placement for this bursary. Tell us more about it and how it will aid in terms of financing education.
Yesterday, Limubora issued a statement on what is happening in the country, what is ailing the country in terms of what is happening in the education sector. We've recently seen instances where, as in events where we've seen a lot of people being embarrassed publicly when they are going to actually look for bursaries. We've seen a lot of bursaries being thrown around. The governors have a bursary, MPs have a NGCDF, the president has a bursary fund, senators are also working towards getting their own, and we're just asking, can we be able to actually merge all these funds and come up with a national funding, national education funding that will guarantee all learners free and basic education? Because we are looking at how these monies are being handled, and it's not something to actually be happy about. At this day and age, where we are seeing leaders actually making fun of the poor people who are coming to look for support, asking them, don't you have anything important you should be doing at home? We saw an incident in Nakuru, which was very ugly. And we also saw what happened in Kisii, where in a bursary issuing event where shots were fired, people were fighting. And this is just another incident that we shouldn't be seeing in our education sector. We've also seen leaders who are actually saying, if you do not vote for me, you will not be getting this kind of support. And we're just saying, all these monies that are being thrown around, they should have at least, they should be put in one kitty and actually come up with a national education fund, which will guarantee every child which will be open, transparent, so that every child can be able to apply. Every needy child can be able to apply and get this money on time and when they need it. Because now we're looking at a situation where tokenism is coming back. The MPs are feeling like now we are the ones now to actually give these people tokens so that they can actually be able to vote for us again. So it's going to be, it's very bad. We need to depoliticize this process, because now we need to actually ensure that every child, including the vulnerable, children with special needs, children from needy backgrounds, the urban poor, the rural poor, can be able to access this. And also have a data. It will also be very important if you can have a national data. Who is getting these funds? At what level are these people enjoying these monies? Because we know it can be people cannot be talking about it, but we know there are people who are receiving multiple. Yeah? The people who are getting funds from from different sources going to the same learner. And also, if we can be able to streamline this and have an orderly manner of doing this, so that every learner can be able to actually enjoy education without being told that you're not a voter in this constituency, you did not vote for me, or being punished for the choices they made, which is our constitutional right. So we want, I know it's not going to be easy to take this away from the MPs. They're going to fight you all they can, because they've been using this for a very long time to do politics. It's been like a political vehicle. So Elimobora was talking about having a national educational fund, which is going to actually bring all this together. Because we look at what the president is having, what the governors are having, what MPs are having. It's coming to billions of money, which can actually ensure that these learners can actually do uninterrupted basic education smoothly. Yeah.
And now let us move to now a different conversation on the same in terms of payment of school fees via e-citizen. Just recently, we saw the Education Principal Secretary issue a circular to national school principals telling them that school fees should be paid via e-citizen, which was again halted due to a petition filed against it. Now, Mr. Benjamin, to you, what are your thoughts regarding this payment of school fees via e-citizen? Is it a step in the right direction?
Well, I think I want to just give this conversation some background. If you look at the e-citizen itself, over the years, many government services have been migrated to e-citizen. I think on average around 5,000 government services, and now they're targeting to have all the government services onboarded onto the e-citizen portal. I think to the tune of 16,000 government services. I want to practically talk about some experiences we have had on the e-citizen. For example, on applying something like a driving license. There's a time getting this document was so difficult. You'll have to go to Hapail, you have to travel long distances, wait, and so forth and so forth. I want to narrow down this presentation and say onboarding government services to e-citizen is a welcome idea. I feel it's a step in the right direction, but also as Bonakarani puts it right, there shouldn't be very clear guidelines, sensitization, and also to ensure that this does not disrupt the normal educational processes. What do I mean? Let's look at, and it should not discriminate, because again, then it will be against the Constitution, if not to discuss the matters in court, but looking at it, we know like in rural areas where parents actually don't pay school fees by money. There are the cases where they work, and then maybe a worker is working in a school and the fees is deducted from their salary. Others pay school fees maybe using beans or mains. They deliver food to the school, and then an invoice is done as per the value of the goods they have supplied. So migrating it, somehow it's a good idea, as I've given that comparison with the experiences we've had with items like driving license, passport, which has become very easy to apply and get it and there's a lot of middlemen and corruption which has been stopped by using e-citizen. But for the education sector, migrating the fees payment to e-citizen, in my opinion, is a good idea, but I think there's much which needs to be done so that it doesn't also affect some part of the population. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Karani, coming back to you, the e-citizen, paying the school fees via e-citizen, is this something that is well thought out, or was it too fast?
I think that is the next big scandal in this country. You're going to see a big scandal in that. That was a roadside declaration. We need to end those roadside declarations where somebody somewhere wakes up and decides you're going to be doing this. It was not discussed anywhere. Bellut Kipsang woke up and started asking principals to send their account details. We are asking, has there been a problem with school fees payment? There has not been any problem with school fees payment. The only thing they started saying is principals are overcharging. If it is overcharging of learners, the government has all the machineries to ensure that that is capped. So when you talk about payment via e-citizen, we are seeing a lot that is going to happen that we cannot handle as a country or allow to happen as a country. For the longest time, schools have been managed by a BUM. The boards have been doing a very good job. The school managers have been doing a very good job. And now I don't see why somebody somewhere can decide now schools' money will be channeled to a certain place, and then the school principals will have to wait for this money to be channeled back to schools. We are seeing government is not remitting monies to the county on time. We are seeing an incident where school fees is paid, all of the school fees is paid, but it's not remitted to schools. What will happen? We'll have learners in schools waiting for money to be remitted from the government, which is going to be another wait. And parents will be told now, since money has not come, let us now look for other ways that we can be able to feed these learners before money is sent back to our centers. And also what the good doctor in Nakuru has done, a very good gentleman who actually ensures that the rule of law is actually adhered to, and somebody who has really actually done a lot. Actually, he had also done a petition during the KCPE examination, actually, and got an order to stop the admission of Form 1. And I want to thank the good doctor because of what he's doing. He's speaking for many Kenyans who are not able to actually speak. The rural poor, the people who've been paying school fees in kind, people who come with whatever they have. If it's firewood they bring, even if it's labor, there are parents who actually go and decide to work in the school to be able to actually pay the school fees. So what will happen to these people? So we're just asking, there has not been a problem with school fees payment. I don't know why somebody somewhere would wake up one day and decide we are going to channel all this money in one place. The other time, e-citizen had an issue, and the DCI were actually looking at it. 5.6 billion got lost in the system. And they started the investigation. They never told Kenyans what happened to that money. So we're just asking ourselves, the BUMs have been doing a good job, and I think we should call to an end to all this issue of doing a roadside declaration and then starting attacking school managers. Now we are seeing issues of now people in podiums saying, oh, school managers are corrupt, school managers are this. There's a clear way where schools, there's a system. There's an audit team that audits schools and releases reports. So we are asking, if you have any issue where monies have been lost, the school audits team would have already raised the issue. And we've seen TSC actually handling issues of teachers who misappropriated monies when they're school managers. We've seen them being punished. So we are asking, how do you just wake up one day and start saying teachers are mishandling monies in schools. We saw what happened to judiciary the other time. They started attacking judges, and judges actually went and did a deal. We don't know what happened when they went, and we saw the attacks stop. Now we are seeing attacks on teachers. Are teachers also going to do a deal? But we are saying, as Kenyans, we cannot allow for that to happen. Because that is going to be another scandal where we are going to see monies being lost. We should be having a conversation about free basic. Why are we having even a conversation about school fees payment, and where we should be working towards ensuring that every learner can get free basic education. Yeah. So the issue of channeling, that is a no. We are going to work towards ensuring civil society is going to ensure that that never happens, because our learners are going to suffer, our parents are going to suffer. This issue of attacking teachers, we are seeing leaders. The other day we saw Aisha Juma saying this was happening, teachers are corrupt. If you're going to attack teachers and then expect that parents are going to respect teachers, how will that happen? We saw what happened the other day. Teachers were being attacked from classrooms, being frog marched in front of their learners. That is the same thing that is going to happen when you start talking about teachers are mismanaging money without issuing proof. Just in political, because you see, teachers cannot be able to organize a political rally and talk to those people and tell them, but when you attack a profession, that is very, very bad. We are going to actually bring a very, very bad situation where parents are now starting going to even accusing teachers without evidence. So it's something that we should approach with caution. And if they are going to do public participation to ensure that all people in the education sector can actually be able to put their input on how to actually, the way forward on how to work on this.
Now, Mr. Benjamin, you talk about some of the successes of the eCitizen app, and of course, one payment system that the government services is going to have their services paid through this system. Now, looking at the education sector to the level of going to schools and getting the school fees paid via eCitizen, is it a pressing need to centralize the payment method of school fees?
Well, somehow, I'm a teacher, Banakarani, and as much as we may be opposed to this approach, my thinking of it is that ideally not all people are corrupt. You cannot generalize that all school leaders, managers, principals are corrupt. But it is true, we have some who have been levying and putting some charges and levies which are not really right, and end up overburdening the parents. Yes, the problem with the whole idea is that we might have situations, as Karan has rightly said, where the system's failure and so forth and so forth. But again, in an ideal situation, if this was properly managed and if monies could come out in time, I would have felt this would have been a good idea. But I totally agree with Karani on the other hand, that there are a lot of fears in terms of will the monies be released to schools in time, because even the capitation and other amounts from the government normally delay. We have had in the past cases of delayed funding being delayed and so forth, inconveniencing the running of schools. I feel there was necessity to do this. If you look at the whole idea, then government policies, of course, I don't speak for the government. The PS Treasury, Professor Ndungu, issued a Gazette notice on December 14th that they want to move all the government services to the eCitizen portal. And just, if you look at it, even the declarations by the minister, the PS, Leo, it was again in line with those policies, notwithstanding the challenges and all that. But I feel as it were, there's need to move with caution because of the amounts involved. When you look at all the public schools, for example, as for the memory and written to all national schools, the amounts are really big. And our systems able to handle this kind of, size of transactions. Is the government going to guarantee that the monies will be transferred to the schools at the right time? So as much as possible, I think the word here is caution. We need to move in caution to that direction so that we don't inconvenience the others. The bottom line and the word they've been using is that they want to enhance service delivery. But again, Mr. Karani has a lot of fears whether this is really the reality, given the experiences we have had with the government. And so personally, I would say it's just a matter of caution. And first of all, ensuring that we don't discriminate anyone. And going forward, if there are, for example, wrongs which have been happening in terms of misappropriation of funds, then what are we doing as a country, as a society, so that we eliminate these vices instead of just blanket condemnation of the whole profession and saying we are moving this because teachers are corrupt. For sure, I know there has been a lot of issues. Even look at the Form 1 intakes there, which just concluded the other day. People have been talking of them being told to pay this, if not so, my son will not go. And the corruption issue is a big problem in this country. I personally, I know that is a big problem. And if, whatever the case, I think the government should not just through the e-citizen, put their foot on the ground and really address the issue of corruption in this country. And lastly, I also want to say, also detach education from the politics of the day. Yes, the politics of this country have actually permeated in almost every sphere, in every part, in every sector, so that these guys are the ones who make policies, laws, to govern the education sector. And so they want everything to be done, and there's always a political connotation to everything happening in this country. I would feel, yes, the intention could be good, but I don't think we are 100% ready for it. Yes, it is good looking at what the digital economy and digitizing everything and services, government services has been doing. But for the education, looking at the numbers, the figures, I think a bit of caution is required. Thank you.
Mr. Karani, now listening from what Benjamin was talking about, he did talk about being a teacher himself and saying that not all the schools, but some of the schools do have these corrupt officials and head of schools who are taking advantages and increasing more levies, and that is an argument that someone can bring. Now, looking at the schools, the way for the government to eliminate these additional levies above the stipulated guidelines gazetted by the government when it comes to school fees, is it more convenient for the parents on your end? E-citizen.
I think it's a very sad situation when government comes to crying to the people that we have school managers who are corrupt, who are charging excess. You are the government. You have the instruments of power. Why don't you decide to put up a complaint desk for all the parents who can be able to channel the complaints? You've set the target. You tell them this is the amount to be paid, and anyone who will be charged anything above that to report to this number. I don't know why you want to make it so hard that the government of the day cannot decide to put up a policy that will ensure that guidelines to ensure that nobody is paying excess. If the government of the day is keen on ensuring that no parent will be overcharged, they can do it. They have all the instruments. They have the educational officers on the ground. They have the CSOs. They have all the people in the ministry. They even have the police and anti-corruption. I don't know why you're coming to rush to people and telling them, oh, the schools. You know, I tend to think this is now a clear case where where they are saying when they want to eat their own children, they start saying they smell like differently. Now this is the point where we are starting to see teachers being said now they are behaving differently. Because now I don't know why you can tell us as a government that you're not able to whip the knee and ensure that all monies are paid in according to the circular. So that is not an excuse saying that they are school managers who are overcharging parents. If you want to crack the whip, you will do it in a day. So that is not what you can tell. BOMs have been doing a very good job. For the longest time, we've had schools being run in a very orderly manner. And I don't know why we want to spoil this. If it's not broken, I don't know why we are fixing it.
Mr. Karani, sadly, time is not on our side. Suddenly, in a minute, your parting shot.
My parting shot is let us let us be cautious on how we treat education. Let's stop this trial and error when it comes to educational matters. Before you engage in anything, ensure that actually you know the pros and cons. And let's stop these roadside declarations where somebody wakes up and decides to just declare that we are going to be moving this way without actually engaging the teachers. The teachers and also the teaching profession, and also civil society. We just let us stop treating education casually with these trial and errors that we're having in this country. That's my parting shot. Let us be more cautious how we approach educational matters in this country, and also governance matters. We should not just be waking up and deciding this is the way to go.
Mr. Benjamin, your parting shot in a minute.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Karani, for this conversation. Mine is just brief. I look forward to a Kenya where we can detach and depoliticize our education, so that we don't look at everything with political lenses. I look forward to a situation whereby politics and education will be like water and oil. I'm looking at also a situation that we are in a digital world. Things are moving, but again, I want to pray that politicians don't take advantage of situations to confuse the masses. Yes, the schools have been trying; they have been doing well, but I think there's also a fight we need to fight as a country, which is corruption, which is permeated into even educational sector, in almost every sphere of our lives. While the managers, the principals, and the government ministry officials are doing their good job, the government need to really put their foot on the ground so that they deal with these corrupt individuals or cartels in whichever sector, more so in the education sector, going forward, so that when good policies come, they can be implemented and there will be no suspicion or fear of unknown, or even resistance for that matter. Thank you so much, and thanks for having me.
This conversation and for giving your wonderful insights, and we do make sure to pick up on the same as it develops on matters of payment of school fees via e-citizen.